to this. Yay, Jupiter, Florida. A Florida entrepreneur who founded a chain of spas and massage parlors where New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft was recently arrested for allegedly soliciting prostitution has become the latest Trump political donor to draw controversy. According to a new report by Mother Jones, 45-year-old Li Yang runs a consulting business that has offered to sell Chinese clients access to the president and his family at Mar-a-Lago. Yang and her husband founded their company in 2017. It's described online as an international business consulting firm that provides public relations services to assist businesses in America to establish and expand their brand image in the modern Chinese marketplace. The company notes that its services also address clients looking to make high-level connections in the U.S. One page of the website displays a photo of Mar-a-Lago and claims activities for clients have included providing them the opportunity to meet with the president and other political figures. The company boasts that it has arranged taking photos with the president and suggests it can set up a White House and Capitol Hill dinner. Yang first came into the news last week when the Miami Herald reported that she had attended a Super Bowl viewing party at Trump's West Palm Beach Golf Club, where she even took a photo with the president. The same day, the Miami Herald broke the story. The website for Yang's consulting firm stopped functioning. Li Yang no longer owns the massage parlor connected to Robert Kraft's arrest.
Steve Ratner, we've been focusing on Russia so much. And you have people like James Fallows and other respected voices that actually say this sort of issue is very troubling. And the access to Donald Trump, the access to the Chinese government, all a bit too tight for comfort.
Look, there's no question, first of all, that politics attracts a rather eclectic, unsavory, Star Wars bar kind of crowd. People want to get close to power. People want to be in there. We've all seen in my many years of fundraising a lot of characters you wish kind of weren't there. I can't say I've ever been across or come near or even heard of anything like this, where there is this potential for engagement with some foreign power who is not even a foreign power that we're on particularly good terms with at the moment. It's a little hard to tell from this piece exactly what she might or might not have done vis-a-vis China. It seems clear she has some connections to China, whether it's beyond simply going to events and reporting back to other people in China, it's hard to know. But it's yet another example of Trump somehow managing to surround himself with some of the most unsavory characters who are out there.
Yeah, and you know, while we're talking about China, Richard Haas, news breaking over the weekend that President Xi now getting very concerned about the possibility of a summit in Florida. He saw Donald Trump walk away from the summit in Hanoi with North Korea. He doesn't want to fly all the way to Florida to be embarrassed by the president pulling up stakes and basically bringing the summit to the end, which certainly very understandable, just like it was very understandable that Donald Trump walked away in Hanoi.
Everything's connected, and it obviously caused problems for Kim Jong-un, and it's linked to the reconstitution of this missile testing site in North Korea. In the case of the Chinese, though, this is a government that's already feeling pressure. The economy is slowing significantly, probably far more, Joe, than the official statistics suggest. These trade talks are difficult enough on the merits, and for what it's worth, it's not the worst thing that a foreign leader would say we're not going to have a summit unless it's totally wired. That should be our position as well. We ought not to want to have summits unless they're totally wired. Neither side would benefit from coming together and having, if you will, a reprise of the North Korean experience. But it's just a reminder that what a president or a government does in one piece of the chessboard, you can't isolate it. Everybody is taking notes. So what we do in Syria or what we do in Afghanistan or what we do in Hanoi vis-a-vis North Korea, everything has implications for everything else.
Well, I would suggest that the president, again, walking away from the table in Vietnam actually was probably a good signal to send not only to the North Koreans and to the Chinese, but everybody else across the globe, because he's gotten the reputation over the past couple of years, has he not, that he's an easy target. You just flatter him, he'll give you what you want. He'll give you, he'll give you the summit that you want. This actually may have been a good pushback. At the same time, we're hearing that he is going to leave some troops in Syria to push back against the Russians and the Iranians there.
Look, I thought it was, in a tactical sense, good that he walked away from an agreement he thought was inadequate. But in a strategic sense, Joe, we never should have gotten to that point. We never should have allowed this summit to take place with this degree of a gap between our side and the North Koreans, where the United States was still insisting on a set of positions that were never going to be realized. Why the two sides were so far apart is beyond me. And again, I expect we'll talk about it later. There's fundamental questions now, given what North Korea seems to be doing, about what it is we would do in response. What is it we are prepared to accept if we can't get what we say we need, which is denuclearization? I actually think after 2 years, our North Korea policy is meeting a truly decisive moment.
Yeah. Mika, just I want to take just a moment here, a moment of personal privilege, just to thank everybody in Pensacola, Florida. We said goodbye to my mom this past weekend at my home church, First Baptist Church in Pensacola, and we want to thank Barry Howard, who was such a great friend and great pastor for my parents for so long, and the new pastor there, Dave Snyder, invited us in, allowed us into the church with open arms, and all of Mom and Dad's friends were there for so long. It was great to see the McVoys, of course, and the Clevengers and the Finleys, and just everybody that meant so much to my parents. So much thanks to them, and it was great seeing a lot of relatives I haven't seen in a very long time.
It's lovely. You did a great job.
Sit there and remember my mom and dad's memory.
All right, and still ahead on Morning Joe, Mayor Pete Buttigieg isn't quite a household name, in part because his name is Pete Buttigieg. But the South Bend mayor just took a big step toward introducing himself to American voters. We'll explain that just ahead. A lot of 2020 news next on Morning Joe.
I'm in a different position than the other candidates because I'm the one candidate. I don't want any of your money. I want your support, but I don't want your money. Again, I don't want your money. Therefore, you're probably not going to support me because stupidly, you want to give money. Trump doesn't want money. I really believe the Iran deal. Look, I'm a negotiator like you folks. We're negotiators. We don't build gas stations in the middle of, as you know, Afghanistan for $43 million. How many think they could have done it for less? Would you raise your hands, please? Do you want to renegotiate deals? Some of us renegotiate deals. I would say about 99.9. Is there anybody that doesn't renegotiate deals in this room? This room negotiates. I want to renegotiate this room. Perhaps more than any room I've ever spoken to. Maybe more.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.